Hey, sports fans and friends, thanks for tuning in on the Shotgun Sports Network YouTube channel, Facebook, or wherever you get your podcast. Please smash the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we post new content. This is episode 7 of Stampeders Roundup, and of course, I have another great show lined up for you. First, I want to show you my Calgary Stampeders Fanfest experience on Saturday, and then CFL coaching legend Jeff Reinebold and I chat about the Stampeders season opener this Saturday against Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Ticats. But first, let's do the Calgary Sports Update, brought to you by Rampage Coffee Company. Rampage Coffee may cause sudden yelling, rapid heartbeat, and full volume CFL takes before 9 a.m. If the Hamilton Ticats were coffee, they'd be decaf and served cold by accident. Support the pod, support Canadian business, and fuel your inner chaos. Hit the link in the description, show notes, and use the code STAMPS10 and knock 10% off your order, just like a perfectly timed sack. Rampage Coffee, because waiting for Hamilton to win a Grey Cup is exhausting. Bill Andrew of the Calgary Canucks has been named the recipient of the Ken Bracco Award as AJHL Executive of the Year. I'm going to read a excerpt from the Calgary Canucks website because they explain this perfectly. Bill has been involved with the Canucks organization for over a decade. His initial introduction with the Canucks was at the invitation of Ken Bracco. Bill's generous sponsorship at the time was key in keeping the franchise afloat. Bill subsequently sat on the Canucks board and was there to lead and guide the franchise after Ken Bracco's passing. It was 3 years ago that his leadership took on a new level, ushering in what can only be described as a complete transformation of the franchise. When Bill assumed a more active leadership role, the Canucks were facing daunting challenges both on and off the ice. The organization was in desperate need of vision, structure, and belief. Under Bill's steady hand, the Canucks have undergone one of the most remarkable turnarounds in AJHL history. Bill's leadership extends far beyond team success. He has been a consistent and passionate supporter of league-wide initiatives, programs, and strategic efforts. His ability to build relationships, elevate standards, and lead with integrity has earned him the respect of colleagues throughout the AJHL. Bill Andrews' dedication, work ethic, and visionary leadership have defined what is possible with Junior A hockey. The turnaround has led with the Calgary Canucks is unprecedented, and his contributions to the league as a whole have been nothing short of extraordinary. The Calgary Roughnecks, of course, are now in the off-season, but many players are now playing in other spring and summer leagues. Riley Pollock has a great article on the Roughnecks website. You can go to calgaryroughnecks.com to read that and other Roughnecks news. The Calgary Cavalry FC and Hamilton Forge FC battled to a 1-1 draw on Saturday. Middle fielder Sergio Camargo scored the lone goal for the Cavalry. The Cavalry also signed goalkeeper Daniel Clark to a CPLU sports contract. The 22-year-old from Milton Keynes, UK, won the 2023 Youth Sports Men's Soccer Championship with the Cape Breton University Capers and was selected by the Halifax Wanderers FC in the 2024 CPLU Sports Draft. Sports fans and friends on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we go live or post, and like and follow at Stamps Roundup on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. All right, let's get to the latest Calgary Stampeders news. The Calgary Stampeders head coach and general manager Dave Dickinson addressed the media yesterday after the team made its final cuts on the weekend. Dickinson said, "We wanted to get some different types of players, some size, some speed." You can head on over to stampeders.com to have a look at the starting roster heading into the season. And the Stampeders held their annual Fanfest on Saturday, and yours truly took the trip down to check it out. Here's a look at my Calgary Stampeders Fanfest experience.
All right, here I am gassing up Getting ready to go to Stampeders Fanfest. Forgive how I look. I'll probably look better when I get there because I'll be more awake. Don't mind the hair. You know, it's 7 a.m. right now. I'm leaving Red Deer. It's going to be a hell of a day. Let's go.
Hey, look, cows. Should we go cow tipping? Oh, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Just in a bit of a hurry here. Going to Stampeders Fanfest. 99 bottles of beer on the wall. 99 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 98 bottles of beer on the wall. 98 bottles of beer on the wall. 98 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 97 bottles of beer on the wall. This is the song that never ends. Oh, it goes on and on, my friends. This is the song that... I don't know the words to that song. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. That's my name too. Oh, baby horses. Maybe future quick six right there. Got a body like old money. Why is this taking so long? She got a body like old money. Damn, now that song's in my head.
Well, this has certainly put in a wrench in the plans.
So, for those that don't know, I actually used to live in Calgary. My wife and I and kids used to live in Calgary before we moved to Red Deer. And one thing I definitely don't miss about Calgary is traffic. It literally takes you 45 minutes to get almost anywhere. I just came off of Deerfoot Trail heading towards McMahon Stadium on 16th, and it's probably taken me 15 minutes to go about 7 blocks. So it's always slow. I don't know why. Maybe they need more routes in the city. I don't know.
All right, guys, I have finally arrived at McMahon Stadium. There she be. There she be. Home of the 2025 Grey Cup champions. So let's go see what FanFest is all about. Who are you looking forward to seeing the most today?
Oh, that's hard. They're all cool.
They're all cool.
I'd say our new quarterback.
That's what the popular answer is so far.
It is, right?
You looking forward to the pancake breakfast?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love pancakes,
That's
right?
They're great.
This is our Grey Cup committee cooking up some breakfast. Let's hear it. Go Stamps!
Go Stamps!
Woo! Oh yeah, there's the money shot. Almost the biggest thing I came for today.
Highway fades to black. It's my last ride. Sitting in the back of a long white Cadillac.
Checking out all the new Stampeders swag.
I'm gonna get one too, but whatever one you get, I want to get a different one.
Damn. Reggie. There we go. New QB. QB1. VA. Yeah, I guess we have a few fans in Calgary. Looks like Quick Six is loving FanFest too. Ready to do some running this season, boy. Gonna do some running. This is Stampeders touchdown horse Quick Six. Quick, how many touchdowns do you think we're gonna get this year? He says about 50.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for your 2025 Calgary Stampeders. Come on, we can make some more noise than that. Let's hear it. Let's go.
Of course, Purelator Tackle Hunger is here. They're taking food donations as always at most CFL events. They do great things for the CFL and the community. Football Alberta is here, as well as the Calgary Bantam Football Association. Of course, this is where it all starts. It all starts in the community with the young guys. This is where it all happens, where it all begins. Careers start here. And then, of course, we have the main event, the players signing autographs, all the new Stampeders and current Stampeders. 2025 Calgary Stampeders right here, signing autographs down here at Autograph Row. Some faces you know, some faces you don't. Lots of fun things for the kids to do, bouncy castles, all kinds of events. We got some football going on over there, running football drills. We have the Grey Cup here. You can get your picture taken with the Grey Cup. There it is. And then, of course, we got all kinds of games, fun, season ticket memberships. Hey, they're on sale now, stampeders.com. We got some of the guys playing cornhole here. Some of them look pretty good playing cornhole. Hey, if the CFL thing don't work out, there may be a career in cornhole. Well, that's going to do it for 2025 edition of FanFest. All that's left to do now is take down this foot-long hot dog and a burger. But luckily, I got a Diet Pepsi. See you next year at FanFest. And see you on the next episode of Stampeders Roundup.
You can also head over to stampeders.com to see more from FanFest. Sports fans and friends on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we go live or post, and like and follow at Stamps Roundup on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Now let's dive into my chat with CFL coaching legend, Jeff Reinebold.
Hello, Jeff.
How's it, Jason? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Really good, man. It's good to hear that Canadian accent again.
That's so funny. Some people you talk to, they're like, oh, I can totally hear it. Some people even know that I'm from Saskatchewan.
When you say Saskatchewan, I know you're from Saskatchewan. You wearing that red? If you're wearing that red, you can't get across the provincial line, can you?
Yeah, as long as I don't have any logos or anything on it, I'm good. How's the weather there in beautiful Hawaii?
Beautiful like it is every day.
I bet it is. You probably don't get many bad days, do you?
No, not very many. I tell you what, every once in a while, when it rains, and if it ever gets to be below 70, everybody runs for their jackets.
That's so funny. What's that in Canada? What's 70 here? What?
It's about, I think, 15 or 16 probably.
That's what it was today here. That's what it is right now, and it's nice, I think.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, welcome to Stampeders Roundup. First time talking to you, and I mentioned Saskatchewan earlier. I noticed you're from Saskatchewan. You grew up in Saskatchewan. I didn't even know that.
No, I actually not. I don't know where you got that one from, but that's the first time anybody's ever accused me of that, Jason.
I should have known. I looked, I know about your CFL stuff, but I don't really know much other about you. So I was looking on Wikipedia, and that's on Wikipedia. Grew up in Manor, Saskatchewan.
Manor, Saskatchewan. Well, I tell you what, I gotta check that one out. That's priceless. I'm gonna claim it on my Saskatchewan retirement. Where's my paycheck?
Yeah, where's your paycheck? Where's your pension? So I don't know if you're still keeping up with the CFL a lot, but the Stampeders and Hamilton have a big game coming up to kick off the season this weekend.
Right.
You being a former Hamilton Tiger Cat coach for many years, I thought he probably still keeps up with the team a little bit and the
Yep.
CFL in general.
Yep.
How's the Hamilton looking so far during camp and heading into the season?
You know what, Jason? I think they're going to be fine. Scott does a great job, and I think having had now Bo Levi for a period of time, a full season and then basically a half a season the year before, I think their relationship this is the case in all, I think in every place in the CFL, the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback is so vital to production offensively. And everybody talks about the National Football League and how important the quarterback position is. Well, think about it from this standpoint. If you go out there in the NFL and it's 2nd and 10, you're asking your quarterback to do an awful lot to get you on schedule and to move the football and sustain drives and do all that. So, that's every down. That's every series in the Canadian Football League because of 3-down football as opposed to 4-down ball. And I think the production of that position is the single most important by far of any of the positions on the field. And the quarterback and the head coach being in lockstep and understanding exactly what they want to get done and how they want to do it. And you watch the teams over time that have had sustained quality of record, and you usually have continuity at 2 positions, head coach and quarterback. And you go through Calgary's history, certainly when Wally was there and he went from, Danny Barrett to Doug Flutie to Jeff Garcia to Dave Dickinson to, and the same thing was true. Go back to those old tremendous Edmonton Eskimo teams. And it was Hugh Campbell and, on through that Wilkinson and Warren Moon and, Matt Dunnigan and, just there was continuity at the 2 positions. And I think that's really, really critical. So I think that's where I give, if there's a edge that I give to Hamilton in that regard, it would be at that corresponding, matching of a head coach's philosophy and a quarterback's ability. I think it's yet to see what we're going to get in Calgary. That's going to be interesting to watch what Dave does and how he's able to, manage that. Dave was a quarterback, so he understands the importance of that, that kind of relationship. And there's a lot of sidebar stories in this. Muntz is coming back to be a defensive coordinator, and he's going to be calling plays against a guy who he knows extremely well on the other side of the field, and how Dickey feels about how he wants to run a game and manage a game, and what his thoughts are on 3rd down, and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be an incredible chess match.
Yeah, that's some great insight there. Now, a lot of people are discounting Hamilton this year. I saw a poll that had them finishing in 4th place in the East. I think Hamilton's actually going to tear it up this year. Bo Levi had a hell of a year last year, especially at the end of the season. I think he's going to go crazy. He's going to go off this year. And same with Calgary. Everyone's discounting Calgary, but I watched the preseason game, and Vernon Adams looked pretty impressive. PJ Walker looked pretty impressive. I think both of them are going to have huge improvements this year.
I think that's a fair assessment, because really, when you look at the quarterbacks in the game, and, obviously Vernon has had his moments of real stardom in the league where you would say, okay, he's ready to be the next guy. And, PJ Walker has, whether it was in the XFL or whether it was, in college football or in the NFL, you've seen him do some really good things too. So if you're a Calgary fan, you got to be excited about the fact that those 2 guys and what their, dynamic abilities inside and outside of the pocket can do. And then on the other hand, you've got a real true gunslinger in Bo Levi Mitchell. Bo is like that guy that you better be really careful in the old West movies when you walk into the saloon and you look at the poker table and say, let's go, because you don't you don't want to write it. You don't run, as Ron Meyer used to say to me, and I hope you don't mind if I say this. He goes, "Don't let your bulldog mouth write checks your chihuahua ass can't cash," and that's what you got to be careful about when you're dealing with Bo Levi Mitchell.
Yeah, now I don't know a whole lot about the Hamilton roster. Who's Bo got for targets this year?
Well, I think the biggest one was the huge acquisition that they got in the off season at receiver, and you're talking about one of the premier guys in the league for the last while, and they are better, I think, than some people give them credit for. Timmy White is an outstanding player. He's been 1,000-yard receiver. They have a young Canadian receiver who's just now starting to come into his own and be, he's going to be, I think, a really a weapon as a third for him. And then what'll be interesting to see is how they're able to run the ball, right? Because I still think you have to be able to at least present the problem to a defense that you are willing to run the football. Scott understands that. He understands balance. He understands, the flow of the game and all that. But I think when you look at these two teams, and this is what makes the Canadian ball season so interesting to me, is, you can really discount preseason when you look at Hamilton because they played Toronto twice, right? And so it's really like 2 inter-squad scrimmages. And then you've got to go and put a team together in 5 days or 6 days, go on the road and play on the road, And so the same is true really for Dickey and what he's got to deal with at Calgary. Every year in the CFL, your team is a new team. And it's that way in the NFL now too, with free agency and all of it. But the CFL, it's the turnaround is, and the change every year is usually greater. So who can get off to a fast start? Now, I will say this. Hamilton has habitually been a team that does not start well, right? They've struggled early in the season. Part of that is because it seems like normally early in the season, they're on the road and a lot of times out west a bunch. And so those are tough trips to begin with. You're just finding out about who you got. You haven't really played meaningful football in the preseason, a lot of it with your veterans. And so you're just figuring out who your team is. The late, great Don Matthews said to me one time, and I thought this was really, really true. He said, you want to get to Labor Day 500. And if you can get to Labor Day 500 and know who you've got, then you make a sprint after Labor Day, and you hope you're hot and healthy going into the Grey Cup. It's interesting if you look at New England when Belichick was in New England, Jason. That was exactly the way they looked at it, a 16-game NFL season, right? They wanted to be above 500 at Thanksgiving, but know who you were, have developed your identity, had developed your chemistry, had developed the cohesion that you need as a football team at Thanksgiving so that you could play your best football down the stretch.
Yeah, I've also heard the saying that if you're not in a playoff spot by Labor Day, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of. Let me tell you this. I think this is something that we did certainly in Hamilton when I was working for Orlando, and I think a lot of teams do it. Wally did it when I was working for Wally in BC. You take the season and you got 18 weeks, all right? So you divide that into thirds, right? So you play your first 6, your middle 6, and your back 6. And if you can realistically be 3-3 in the first 6, you got a chance. And now you want to be a little bit better in the middle, and then you want to finish strong. You want to be, certainly 5-1, but 4-2 in the back 6 would, usually you're playing good football. You're hot at the right time, and you're going into the tournament, Grey Cup tournament, ready to really do damage. And I think if you look back historically in the league, that's typically been the way the teams that win the Grey Cup, their season goes.
with now the what sticks out of my mind, and I don't know why this sticks out of my mind. 89 Saskatchewan Roughriders, I think we're 9-9.
Yeah.
And they ran the table.
Yeah. You know, and it's amazing. You know, you think about all the teams and you know, I go back way back. I mean, way back to the Roy DeWalt days in BC. I see. Here's the thing, Jason. I never wanted to be a coach in the NFL. That was never what I aspired to as a young coach. My dream was always to coach in the Canadian Football League, and that happened because as a college player at the University of Maine, which is way up there in the Northeast, you could get Canadian television. And I watched in college, I watched Rocky DiPietro and, you know, I watched that group of superstars, Ben Zambiazzi and all of those great players back in that time. And I just fell in love with the game because I thought the game was such a superior game. So many more ways to score, the motion, you know, all of the rules, the little, you know, line up a yard off the ball, unlimited motion. I mean, all of it. And so it was really a blast for me all those years to be there because that's really what I wanted to do my whole career was to coach up in that league.
Yeah, now when you were coaching, I was a big fan in my prime, I guess, my prime fan days. So I definitely remember watching games that you coached, and you definitely looked like you had a blast. That's for sure.
Well, you know what? It's like Canada and the Canadian League in particular have been so good to me. It's been such a great experience. I've met so many incredible people. You can imagine coming up as a guest coach in 1988, your first year, and I'm coaching Kevin Konar, who was an all CFL linebacker at BC, and you know his son's playing in the league, I think, right now. And Kevin was older than me, and I got to go out and coach that guy. And James Quick Parker was, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, Rick Clausen was a defensive lineman, and Nick Hebler was in Saskatchewan, and I mean, it was just fantastic.
Who was your quarterback that year? Was it Dunnigan? Was he there
it was
yet?
really interesting. That was one of the first cool things that, like, I can just remember this happening. We were in training camp, and I think Joe Galat was our GM, I believe, and he got a hold of Larry Donovan, the head coach, and we were together at the time, and Larry took the call, and he said, he got off the phone, he put his hand over the phone, he said, I think we just saved the CFL. And it was when Dunnigan got sent to BC, right? Because if you remember, the league had really started to get into, you know, tough sledding at that time. And Matt was such a huge presence, and they really wanted him in BC because, you know, BC's one of their prime markets, and they felt like getting him there would not only improve the football team, it would improve, you know, ticket sales and all the things, which ended up being true. And I think, if I remember correctly, I wasn't there, but the team that I guest coached with went to the Grey Cup that year.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because again, I remember it now. They played in Ottawa, and they were on the goal line, and Matt tried to throw a slant. It got tipped, and Michael Gray caught it from Winnipeg, intercepted it, and that was the end of the game. They should have actually won the game.
Yeah, man. Oh, all these memories are bringing up. Good old time CFL football.
You know what? And I think this is really, I hope, certainly, that, you know, and I think I believe that this is the case. I really want to believe this is the case, that another generation, a younger generation of Canadians in particular, have started to fall back in love with a game that is uniquely their own, right? And I know the league, the last year I was in the league, they, you know, sent a lot of press releases out about how the demographic was changing and American young people were getting involved in watching the CFL, which is all great. But you got to be strongest at home. And
Mhm.
I think that's really, really important. And it is such a great game, and it is such great value for entertainment that I really hope that the younger fans will see what they've got. That's what concerned me when all that controversy was going through the league this summer, and there was a comment made that there are no superstars in the league, and certainly there are tremendous players in the league, tremendous players. I mean, here's the thing to me, Jason, the game's a different game. Now, that's not to say that Tyreek Hill isn't a fantastic player or the greatest receiver, but who cares? You got guys doing the same thing in the CFL, right? The talent, the skill level of the players, the explosiveness of the game, it's not fair to compare, because do you remember this? Dexter Manley, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame, comes up to Ottawa at the end of his career. And I remember being in BC, and we're watching the tape of the game. And after 2 plays, Dexter is over there tapping his head, which is the universal signal for "get me out of here, I'm tired," right? And the coaches on the sideline in Ottawa are going, stay back, because we don't have another substitute to go in for you. Like, that's what I'm saying. The toughness of the players, right? The ability to play as fast as they play on a field that's 13 and a half yards wider and 20 some yards longer, with less time between plays, as with fewer substitutes. So you're playing on special teams and whatever offense or defense. How tough these guys are. And then now we're making them play like the old days where they got to play on a 5-day turnaround. I mean, it's amazing what these guys do.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Calgary even has a Thursday game in their season. I don't know if anyone else is looking at Thursday games this year, but Calgary has a Thursday game stuck in there, which is, unless they have the bye week the week before. I don't actually know that, but looking forward at the game this weekend. Let's talk about defense. How's Hamilton's defense?
I think, well, it's being there's a turnover happening right now. For years, Mark Washington was the coordinator there and had some great defenses. Then it kind of started to slip a couple years ago, and Mark got replaced, and Chris Jones came in and did a pretty good job to get it kind of to steady the ship a little bit. And then Brian Munson's now got the job as defensive coordinator. Munson, I've known him for a long time. It's kind of a cool story. He's a Hamilton boy going back home to Tiger Town, to Steel Town, to, where he grew up a fan of this team. So for him to come back to Calgary, where he cut his teeth as a young defensive coach, I think is kind of a real cool story. I think it starts with up front with Casey Sales. I mean, he is a legitimate player. I mean, no question, he is a very, very good player. But I think at each level of the defense, Hamilton has shown, at least in preseason, what I have seen in the preseason, that they've got playmakers, and they're gonna make it tough on you. They played really well of the 8 quarters that they played, and I know it's preseason, but that's all you can base it on. Of the 8 quarters that they played preseason against Toronto, and you're talking about Nick Arbuckle, a guy who's been a starter in the league, they played really good defense. Now, will they be able to do that again against VA and some veteran Calgary offensive linemen and skill position guys? We'll see. But I think certainly they're going to come into this with high expectations that they're going to be a more, they're probably not going to blitz as much as you're used to seeing Hamilton blitz, but I think they'll be a really fundamentally sound. Their schemes will be, outstanding, and they'll make it tough. They'll make you work for everything that you get.
So
back in your years of coaching in the CFL
Mhm,
and maybe kind of speculate on today's coaching,
mhm.
do you guys take much stock in game number one of the season, or is game number one of the season kind of like preseason game number three? Or is everybody ready to roll like right now?
I think, I think here's the deal. When the schedules come out, right? Now, coaches will tell you they don't do this, but every one of them does it in some way, shape, or form. The schedule comes out, and the first thing you do is you run and you grab your ink pen and you start going through the schedule. Oh, that's a win. That'll be tough. And you're starting already in your brain. You think every one of them counts, right? But what you have to have, I think, and I think the really good coaches that I've been around, and I'm talking about Bob Obilovich, who's a Hall of Famer, Don Matthews, a Hall of Famer, Wally Buono, who's a Hall of Famer, Orlando Steinhauer, who's a Hall of Famer. I'm talking about those guys. Those guys had an understanding of seeing the big picture, right? They understood that, one game is 2 points. That's the most it can be, right? And you try and get your 2 points and then move on. And if you don't, I mean, there's nothing you can do. You got to be in the moment. You got to get to the next down because we used to have a saying on the sidelines to the players, and frankly, I learned this from Tom Higgins, who was a longtime assistant in Calgary. And Higgy used to say when I was at Edmonton and he was our assistant general manager, he used to always tell the players on the sideline if they made a mistake, one snap and clear, right? Which means, hey, there's nothing you can do about it. Put it away. We got to get on to the next play. Well, the
Yeah.
guys that have sustainability in coaching, right, are guys that are able to one snap and clear on a defeat and go right on to the next week. It's Belichick's old "we're on to Cincinnati" thing, and my psychology as a head coach, I could never do that. Like it was the end of the world when we got beat, and so the world ended quite a few times. But I think it takes a certain amount of emotional maturity for as a head coach that you're able to see it for no more than it is. Because if it's a win, it's 2 points. If it's not, it's on to next week. And then because you have to get ready, the turnarounds are so short so many times in the CFL.
You got to have a short memory.
That's it. That's it.
Now, so looking ahead to the season, what are your thoughts on how the season's going to end up? Let's make a prediction.
This is one of the most fascinating seasons I think that we're heading into, because I don't see a clear cut favorite.
There's a lot of parity.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You look at, to me, when I look at any football, but particularly Canadian Football League football, the number one place I go is the quarterback. Okay, do you have a quarterback who's good enough to win for you? Well, Montreal thinks they do. That's why they got rid of their guy, right? Toronto should, Hamilton should, Winnipeg should, Calgary should, BC should.
Yeah.
And again, you look at Edmonton. Edmonton now has a veteran who's won an awful lot of football games and done an awful lot of good things. So every place really, with the exception probably of Montreal, with the young guy that they're going to go with, has got somebody in there. Saskatchewan does too, that has proven that they're good enough to win games in this league. So now, who stays healthiest? Who gets a few breaks along the way?
Yeah.
I think those are going to be the key things. Coaching matters, right, in the CFL.
Oh, yeah.
I think it matters in all levels of football, but particularly in the CFL because the way the game goes. And so when you look at that, you say you've got Buck who's going to be doing it for the first time. It's so different when you're the head coach. When you sit in the corner office, it's completely different. You got Mark Killam in Edmonton going to be doing. I'm a big Mark Killam fan, right? But he's going to be doing it for the first time. And then you got the two old wily veterans, in Dickey in Calgary and Michael Shea in Winnipeg. On the other hand, Scott has been a Grey Cup winner in Hamilton, right? And you go to Toronto. They've won 2 of the last 3, I think, if I'm correct.
I
You
believe
go
so. Yeah.
Jason has been, he's a proven coach in Montreal. And, so as you go through the league, you see that it's going to be really, really tight football games. And again, who can win? Whose quarterback is going to get them in the end zone consistently enough to win?
That was a great answer, and I won't get you to pick to make a prediction. But one last question, and I'll let you get back to your sunshine and surf. Dave Dickenson in Calgary, is Dave Dickenson in the hot seat this season?
Let me say this: that every guy who sits in that seat is in the hot seat, right? There is no question, and I think this is it. It used to be like Coach Vermeil told me, Jason, that when you take a job, he said, it'll be the 3rd year before you find out whether you're any good or not, right? He said, because the first year you're just learning everything and everybody and how it all, you're not only your staff, but the players, the equipment guys, the immediate football staff, support staff. Then the second year you got to show a little improvement, right? And then the 3rd year you should show that you're a pretty good football team. Well, the problem historically has always been in the CFL is if you had one bad year, you weren't going to get a second bad year. You might get a half of a second bad year, but you weren't going to get a full second bad year. That has now kind of happened even in the NFL. You see guys getting fired, like last year in New England, they bring in a guy, one of their own, and anoint him the head coach after Coach Belichick, and he lasts 1 season, right? So anybody that takes a head coaching job understands that, they put the bullet in the gun and pulled the trigger, and now it's just how long can you outrun the bullet, right? And you outrun the bullet by winning football games. And so certainly Dickey has won an awful lot of football games and been extremely successful, won championships. However, in this business, it's all about what have you done for me lately? That's crazy. I mean, it's insanity, but that's the way it is. And I'm sure he understands that. And like I say, whether it's Buck or Mark Killam or, any of the head coaches in the league, everybody understands that you're on a very, very short leash and you have to win, and you have to win now. And in a way that I think in a way that's detrimental, because it's really difficult to build an organization that way. And you think back to the guys that have built organizations, Wally, right? Don Matthews built a number of them. Those guys had sustainability. Now they had sustainability because they had good quarterbacks and because they won, and they were able to build something that that lasted for a long time.
Yeah, I was at Stampeders Fanfest on Saturday, and I met Dickey, I met John Huffnagel, and Jay McNeil, and all of them seem pretty fired up about the season. So hopefully it's going to be a good one.
Well, I tell you what, you talk about, there's a trifecta for you right there. Because
yeah.
When you think about it, my first recollections of Huff were that guy that I used to watch play college football at Penn State, and then he goes up to the CFL and has a great career and gets into coaching, and then wins everything you can win, and then decides to take a trip to the general manager seat and win some more, and certainly one of the greatest that ever played or coached in the league. And then Dickey, who played at the University of Montana, which is a place that's really special to me, and I watched his career on through making it. Now here's a guy, 5 whatever he is, 5'8", 5'9", whatever he is, and he makes it in the NFL with the San Diego Chargers. Now you tell me how that happens. Well, that's a competitive, not only a good player, but an extremely competitive guy. And then he comes up and takes his place amongst those Calgary quarterbacks we talked about. And wins championships and then gets into coaching and then wins more championships. And then Jay McNeil, was an offensive lineman, a great offensive lineman on a lot of those really, really good Stampeder teams. So there is a foundation and a history of winning in that organization. And I think, they've been through about a couple years of a tough patch. But you know what? Guys that have been there and done it, they can usually find their way out of it, if they're getting the support that they need, from the organization.
All right. Well, thanks for the insights, and I won't keep you any longer from your sunshine there.
Hey, Jason, I appreciate it. It's really cool to be able to talk to people up in Canada again, and I wish the Stampeders luck, obviously, and every team in the league good fortune and stay healthy. And can't wait to watch everybody celebrate Grey Cup one more time at Grey Cup week, and that is such that I've had an opportunity to coach certainly in Grey Cup games and do the media for the Grey Cup, and then I've also broadcast I think now 13 Super Bowls. And to me, when you talk about, I'm talking about roots now. I'm talking about for the general fan, for the guy on the street, the Grey Cup is the greatest celebration in sport. It really is. Now, yeah, the NFL, the Super Bowl week is like craziness, and it's a corporate event. The Grey Cup's still about the fans, and that's the way it will always stay.
Yeah, you're certainly right there. All right, Jeff, you have yourself a great rest of your day, I guess. We're at nighttime here, so I'm going to go have some supper and call her a day.
All right, man. You have a great day, and I hope we get a chance to do this more than once during the season.
Yeah, we'll definitely connect again during the season and see how things are going.
All right. Take care, Jason. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Have a great night.
That does it for me here at Stampeders Roundup. Big thanks to Jeff Reinebold for taking time out of the sun and surf and his busy schedule to chat about Stampeders football. Go check out all the great CFL shows on the Shotgun Sports Network, including Rouge, White, and Blue, and the Elks Call with my friends Catherine and Scout, aka the Elks Herd. They will be going, I believe, on Thursday this week instead of Wednesday. So check them out on Thursday night due to the Edmonton Oilers playing hockey tomorrow night. For myself and my friends at the Shotgun Sports Network, have a great night.
And here we go! Ready?